Hi, Shitangshu.
Hi, Indrani. Good afternoon. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
Not bad at all. Can't
Yeah,
complain about the weather, especially after
absolutely.
the
After -30, we're back to zero and -4. So, yeah, good news.
good news
But
there.
today we're going to be discussing inflation, uh,
Okay.
the
Yes,
price
topic.
rise,
Yeah,
and something that again affects all of us,
true.
and something that's making headlines every day now.
Yeah.
So um, this is something that's gonna we'll make it a little personal. Uh, we'll get a
Okay.
perspective of a single guy's expenditure,
Mm-hmm.
especially in Ontario, especially in
Yeah.
Toronto. So yeah, so I know that you have made an Excel sheet
Yeah.
talking about your expenses and with some suggestions, and we would love to hear everything that you have to say here. But
Absolutely.
let's before that, let's have a perspective of what and the percentage of price rise that we are seeing now.
Okay.
So, needless to say that, after battling, through challenges associated with epidemic uh,
Right.
for the past 2 years, now we are looking at a new kind of problem, which is inflation. And while price rises have been portrayed in media as having negative consequences on our capacity to afford a roof over our head and daily cups of coffee, individuals who are more connected to the ground
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
struggle to fulfill even the basic necessities, such as hunger. You know, so
Absolutely.
let me give
Absolutely.
you some numbers here. Food prices have skyrocketed. According to the federal agency, the cost of bread has increased by 12.2%. The cost of fruit increased by 10%, and the price of
Nice.
pasta has increased by 19.6%, and that's massive
That's
from
bad.
the previous year.
So
So,
so no so no more pasta then, I guess.
yeah, so these figures kind of startle you, and they kind of
Absolutely.
take you up, and they're like, okay, here, we've just been reading about price rise and not really paying attention to the numbers. The moment the numbers come to our face, you're like, okay, this is how much it has increased, and then you kind of put everything in perspective, you know uh,
Absolutely. I mean, and like just to add to what you said,
yeah.
um, during these difficult times, inflation, it's not only just hitting in terms of hunger, it is hitting people in terms of their jobs, in terms of like you mentioned the pasta. Say for example, pasta itself. I mean, a very basic thing like cauliflower, like okay, for us Indians, like we'll be making some sort of aloo gobi ki sabji. So cauliflower is like for $7. And I
There
don't know,
you go.
like a few months back, I think it was less than half of that,
Yeah,
$7 for this. And
I stopped
even
having cauliflower. So I have no I have no clue how much it costs now. But I have stopped having cauliflower.
it
Uh,
is also affecting people, with students also. I mean, say for example, if you have taken any sort of mortgages and loans, so quite naturally, like, the Bank of Canada has taken measures to protect Canada and the financial institutions from the effect of inflation. So quite naturally, the rate of interests have increased, and that naturally cascades down to the common man and woman.
Ask me about it. For a family of four, it's a struggle. Let me tell you that. So, but then right now we're not going to be talking about a family. We're going to be talking about you in
Okay.
and your expenses. So basically, inferences can be made from what you will be sharing with us
Sure.
according to your family size. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So let me first share what you have shared with me. Give me a second. Yeah. So you have more or less shared divided this into accommodation, transportation, groceries, mobile plan. So yeah, explain to us your categories
So
and
this is a very simple, sheet that I have prepared, and like you saw, it is divided into different categories of expenditures. So as an individual, and when I'm talking about individuals, I am pointing to people who are not only just working, but even students and the new migrants who are coming to Canada. Now, you have, your basic expenditure would be, you will have accommodation, you'll have transportation, groceries, mobile plan, utilities, and then you will also have, that occasional going out with friends and shopping and stuff like that. You'll have that, and I'll have also put out something called as fuel, but that's only for a category called when earning. So I'll come back to that towards the end.
okay.
So you know what? Let me start from the first month that I came here to Canada. So my accommodation was at Airbnb, and it was for $1,600 for 1 month, and quite naturally, I had no idea that it was expensive. So whoever I spoke to was like, are you serious? You spent $1,600 for 1 month? And they were like, you will get an entire condo on rent for that, or an apartment. I'm like, okay. So that was my first brush that, okay, so I've quite naturally I've spent a lot. Then since I was there for the first time, so quite naturally I had to like understand that, okay, whether the place is furnished or unfurnished. That was one thing which I had to see. um and in order to meet the basic necessities, I had to travel a bit. So for transportation, I was relying mostly on Uber. I was not very familiar with the TTC. So I was in Etobicoke, so that's TTC. For folks who are staying in, say, Mississauga, it might be the My Way, or who are in Brampton, it might be Peel Regional Transport, Zoom Transit. So so I think I spent a little over $200 for my transportation, going to Service Canada, going to Service Ontario and stuff like that. So and of course exploring the city. So that was part of it. Then groceries again. That was still okay. Mostly it was eating out in the first month, thing like that. And then mobile plan was something which was very important, because establishing, line of communication, reaching out and talking to people, that was necessary. So the first plan that I got was from Freedom Network. That was for $25 a month, and they give unlimited calling and messaging across Canada, and 1 gigabyte of internet for a month. Now this came as a shocker to me, since in India I was using Airtel and Jio. So for folks who are listening who don't know, so Jio is the first company who came and disrupted the Indian telecom, and they started offering 1 gigabyte of internet per day.
Oh, yeah.
So I was, and then obviously other telecom companies in India, they followed suite, and they were like, okay, so it was like every day on internet. Coming to Canada was like, for a second I felt like have been transported back to Stone Ages.
True. In India, we are spoiled for choices in terms of, mobile networks,
That
because
is there.
everybody's competing for, and it's so competitive, the prices.
It's the
Yeah,
price in comparison to Canada. It is. I mean, if I say it's cheap, is also an understatement in India. That way, I
ab-
would say.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
And mind you, these connections, they were all 5G internet
Yes.
connections.
Yes.
5G internet connection, 4G LTE connections.
Yeah.
So we cannot even say that, you cannot compare apple to oranges.
Yeah.
It's apple to apple out here. So moving further, so after my brush with this expense for first month, so that which was like way over, um more than $2,200, or it was $2,500 or something like that. So I like, okay, I have to curtail my expenses. So keeping the frugality in mind, so I started hunting for houses. Uh, so I was like, okay, you know what? I will. rely more on the public transport rather than going on Uber. So I think there's something called as the Presto card, and there was this monthly pass for $156. Now you can travel as many times as you want, unlimited, and of course in the TTC network itself you can travel. So that was for $156, a Presto card monthly pass. And then I was searching for houses. So I'll come to tips and tricks for house hunting as well towards the end. But the first house that I saw was like on Kijiji. I saw that was for $400. I was like, okay, $400, like nice.
One
But then
room.
yes, it was one room. It was one room
Basement.
in a basement. In a basement. But let me tell you, Rani, the condition of the basement was in a very dilapidated. I mean, probably if you thank God Canada does not have any sort of natural calamities like earthquake, but then probably if there was earthquake, the house would come down.
Okay.
It was in such a bad condition. You have molds and fungus growing from it. Like, oh no, this is it was like bad. It was like you cannot stay there. But good thing on a positive side, groceries again, which I was talking about earlier. So I found out stores like No Frills, Walmart, and Costco. Back then, I didn't discover Costco. So those two were my go-to stores. So on an average, I saw that I was spending around $150 to maybe around $300. So again, this would depend on an individual's diet. So if you don't eat, on an average, you might even spend less than $150, maybe even $100. Your groceries can happen. And mind you, this is where I'm talking. You are just cooking. You're not going out and eating. This is just $150 for groceries and cooking food.
And is it veg, non-veg? Give us
Yes. This is definitely like so.
okay.
Say for example, I would get chicken. So one week I would get chicken. One week I would get fish. So
Yeah.
alternatively,
Yeah.
that's how it was. And say for example, if you go to places like Sobeys, Walmart, like the ones which I was mentioning, you will get chicken, like you a half a chicken maybe, or like a quarter of a chicken for maybe like 10 to 12 bucks.
Mm.
And it's good, and you prepare it, and it's good enough to last for a whole week or so. So, and again, since I wasn't that much of a consumer, so for me, and again, it was like very economically. I was not that I was like being very stingy on food. It was just that's how it was. So I had to plan my cooking and plan my food like that. So that's how it was. So moving further, there's another component called internet and utilities. So when we talk about utilities, we are talking about the hydroelectricity, not the hydro water, hydroelectricity, and water consumption. So in some accommodations, this thing is that you have to pay it separately other than your rent. Like say for example, if you are living in an apartment, you'll have to pay for it separately. If you're living in a condominium or a townhouse, obviously you'll have to pay for it separately. But if it's a rented accommodation, um 90% of the time it is let's just say it is included in the rent itself. Now that being said, um internet is something which is a bit a contentious issue, because say for example, if you have like say for example 4 individuals, and you have taken a whole apartment altogether, and so that point of time, whatever internet is there, it will be divided into 4 people and it will be shared. Now speaking of shared, I also want to talk about the shared accommodations. So my search for accommodation took me all the way to Mississauga and Brampton. So in Brampton, I found out students who are living in a room which is for say $500, and like in a room you have like 2 people. So automatically the rent comes down to an individual for like 250 bucks. So that becomes even more cheaper. And then again, depending on if you are, say somebody may have a car, so you might find that okay, somebody's having a Challenger or a Mustang, some sort of car. So, and if they're going to work or whatever, so they might share the fuel cost. So again, that brings down the price.
Yes.
Same thing goes for the Internet, same thing goes to the utilities as well. um, Going out for shopping is something, again, that's an individual choice, where you might be, um, purchasing clothes, tech products, going out for movies with friends. Again, that depends on your choice and taste. But then, yeah, the sincere advice would be that, um, let's not go for high-end expenses until and unless you're earning.
So here, when you're talking about minimum expenditure,
Yeah,
you are telling us around 800 to 900 or 1,000 is what a single
this is
person,
for an individual.
yeah, for a single person living in Toronto, will be the expenses will be
A
around that
single
figure.
person in a single room, like that.
In a shared accommodation, or in a shared accommodation.
Yeah, in
Yeah.
a shared accommodation, your if your let's just say, many things, they get, since it is being shared, like the name suggests. So quite naturally, the expenditure gets divided among the people who are staying there as well.
So this column
Hmm.
is considering that you're sharing an accommodation and you're sharing a lot of other things.
Yeah,
This is what roughly you will be spending in a month.
yeah,
That is around 800 to 1,000. And
absolutely. If an individual, that's around anywhere between 800 and $900.
and this
Um,
first month is what you have spent in the first month.
Absolutely.
Being a newcomer, you know, of course, you were staying in an Airbnb, which is what everybody does in the first month. So, and Airbnbs are expensive, and then of course you do not know the city, so you will obviously incur more costs navigating through the city, and groceries, because you'll be eating out much more. You're still hunting for your place, and mobile plan, and so on and so forth. What you are telling us is the maximum that you will be spending as a single person in Toronto is around 1,500 a month. Is that what you're saying? Let me show you more people who will be spending even more than that. So the
Yeah,
potential to spend more, we're not really debating on that. That can be any figure. But if you are mindful of your expenses, I think
yeah.
you will be spending around 1,500, 1,600 as a single
Absolutely,
person.
absolutely. And just to add to that, Johnny,
Yeah,
um, sure, we are not even debating about the fact that who can spend how much,
yeah,
but these expenditures, they can also come down in another way. Like, say, for example, now I'm living in Etobicoke, or this expenditure can go even higher. Say if I go to core downtown and I'm not sharing, at this point of time, a studio condo or a one bedroom condo is for $2,400 a month, and that is just the rent of it. So, so quite naturally, if you come out or you move away from the downtown Toronto, quite naturally the rental price, they will decrease. And but then again, there's also seasonality to it. Now, say for example, if I was looking for a house, say, or an accommodation, um, say around the time of fall, September, October, around that time, the prices will be high. And again, there's a reason behind it, because again, you have like a lot of students coming in, and the classes are going to start and stuff like that. But as and when the winter sets in, the price dips.
yeah.
The temperature also dips, and even the prices, they also dip.
Mhm.
So, and then again, this kind of remains a little bit um, kind of like the wintry prices, and they start slowly climbing towards the summer. So that's the kind of seasonality that you might get to see in terms of accommodation. About the transportation also. So, like in the Excel sheet that you saw, so $156 is the price component which is there, that is for your TTC monthly pass. Now, if you are a student, mostly your there's something called as a GIC, and most of the universities, they cover this bus transportation cost within that GIC. But say, for example, if your college or university is not sharing it, then even then also you can get a same monthly pass, TTC monthly pass for $128. And again, of course, unlimited travel across all the TTC transportation of the streetcar, subways or buses, and likewise there. Now, groceries, I think we have extensively discussed. So if you're a foodie, it can go up. If you're frugal, if you don't like eating, I don't know another person who doesn't. But then again, if you don't, then quite naturally the prices come down. Another major thing which I have seen, especially at the airport, okay. So if you are having this mobile plan and once you come out towards the exit, so you will find these shops and kiosks where they are having these SIM cards. Obviously, you need a SIM card in order to communicate locally. So you will have Charter, Fidos, and Rogers and stuff like that. So the starting pitch for every salesman would be that, okay, you know what, here's a $25 plan, here's a $30 plan. And then they will say that, hey, you know what, we have an offer going on. Why don't you take a $45 plan or a $50 plan? And just to impress you, you know what, we have even a latest iPhone or Samsung's. And if you add another $10 a month or $15 a month, say for a Samsung I'm talking, you will get the latest model of Samsung. So that is also another place where you can be a little bit mindful in terms of expenditure. Sure, for $25, personally, I'm saying it doesn't suffice. 1 GB of internet, it doesn't suffice for me. But then if you are mindful, maybe say if you are going to stores and grocery restaurants, you'll usually get Wi-Fi connection. But if you're like me, who is a avid internet consumer, then quite naturally you'll have to move up to other plans where you will get a sizable amount of internet. And again, that is for individuals to explore. But then that is, again, you need to be a bit mindful about it. So in order to curtail my own expenses in the beginning, what I did was I got my own phone. When I was coming from India, I had got my own phone. So that was one place where I felt I saved. Because otherwise, if you're going to purchase a new phone and with along with a plan, um,
Absolutely.
that definitely adds up to say around minimum to $1,000 to your expenditure. And let me come to the last where I was talking about when earning. So I was talking about, let's keep the high-end purchases towards the end or only when you're earning. So after my period of struggle, after my period with respect to, after I finished up my studies, so that's when I purchased a car. So, and again, the logic behind purchasing a car was that, okay, that, you know what, I don't want to wait for TTC anymore, because sometimes TTC is unreliable. I mean, even for a few days back when I was in the office, I saw there's a long queue of people who were just waiting for TTC bus, and there was a polar vortex going on.
Mm.
People are just braving the snow. So I had my share of it in the first 2 years, and that is something I didn't want to experience any further. So that's the reason I got a car. So quite naturally, when you are adding a car, so quite naturally your expenses are also going up in terms of your car mortgage, your car insurance, and of course the fuel and its maintenance. So like I said, keep your high-end expenditures only when you're earning. Do not get swayed that, okay, oh, that chap, oh, he has got a Ford Mustang, so I'll call up my folks, hey, can you send me money, and even I need to purchase it. So that is something probably I would be a bit mindful as well that
Yeah.
way.
And quickly tell us the tips and tricks to kind of because
Sure.
you have a section where you have jotted down some tips and tricks for us.
So very quickly, so I was talking about the seasonality of the house. So usually it is good if you are moving into a new house in the winter season, sure, it is a little bit painful because you'll have to brave the cold, and not many people they like the Canadian winter. So that is one. But then again, if you're doing the math, so you have to be a bit more considerate towards that. And like I said earlier, if you're moving away from the downtown, um, then quite naturally the prices will be low. Like I gave you the comparison for the price that even for a basement apartment, let's say for a basement apartment, you will spend anywhere between $1,600 to $1,700, and you'll have two bedroom, you'll have a hall, you'll have a kitchen and everything. But then again, if you're going to downtown, just maybe 20 kilometers, 30 kilometers away, there you are spending $2,400 for a condo. So, and again, if you're going away all the way till say places like um, Thunder Bay, Tobermory, and places like
Absolutely,
Barrie,
absolutely. I
the
mean,
prices will fall drastically, or
absolutely.
Peterborough.
I mean, the geography matters, here.
Absolutely. So where you are staying,
What
that
you are
matters a lot.
saying is, yeah, very, very important. But again, then you have to figure a lot of things when you are trying to rent out a place. I think what, the first and the foremost is, whether or not, that place is accessible.
Absolutely.
Secondly,
Absolutely.
is it something that you can do, like the distance from your office to the place that you rented, or the school that you have to go to, or the college or university that you have to go to. So these are things that you have to obviously take into consideration before.
Absolutely, Indrani. I mean, even when I was searching for a house, so one of my core back then when I didn't have a car, so my core search criteria was that my house accommodation should be very close to a public transport.
Yeah,
So that like in winters, so that you have to walk less and you can quickly get
yeah,
into your building or
yes,
into your house.
yes,
Otherwise, it becomes very, very difficult. It
absolutely.
becomes very, very difficult.
I think,
Another thing to consider is the guest policy.
yeah,
Guest policy, because some house owners, they might be okay with you having guests, the tenants having guests, and in some places they are not okay with it, to say the least. So that's one thing. Um, there's one more thing which I want to add to this. So sometimes, say for example, if you have a car, you can also add up your insurances as well. So you can combine your house and your automobile insurance together. So again, that kind of reduces the cost. Um,
and
back when I
also
was
saving fuel. How, the best way to save
yeah.
fuel is ride share. You know,
Oh yes,
yeah,
absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. So I mean, say if I had a roommate
Mm,
or a flatmate who had a car, for
mm.
example. So again, that is not to exploit the person, but then yes, maybe I could have taken the help that
Absolutely.
way.
Yeah.
So
These
just for
are
really basic
very
things.
small things, but they go a long way in saving those pennies and, those dollars.
100%, 100%, absolutely, absolutely. And back when I didn't have a job, or I was new to the country, so then what to do? So in order to save money on the food as well, so I had to visit food banks. But
Yes.
then again, I didn't have money for that matter.
Yes.
So
These
yeah, so
helps are obviously there.
you
People can
have
reach
to
out.
just yeah,
But yes, this is a very, very, very informative. This was a very, very informative session where you actually shared your own expenses with us. Thank you for letting us in your, uh, you know, in basically trying to understand what your budget looks like, and how should anybody who's new here budget as well.
no,
So
obviously you have to like do your bit research whenever you're coming here. You
yeah,
have to do your research in terms of finding the house, whether it is connecting with a housing agent or connecting on to individuals on Kijiji or Facebook Marketplace. and that is just to say the least.
Yes.
So that research has to go in 100%.
Yes. Thank you so much for this session. And I will be sharing the Excel sheet as well.
Sure.
Yes, so that anybody who wants to access and get a sense of, the most important things that they should be actually looking out for, they know they can access it.
Absolutely. Like, sure, in the Excel sheet, you will find that it is divided into three things: the points that I've spoken about, the expenditure, and the third sheet is about earning.
Yes.
So again, that was just to give you a point of comparison that how much you can potentially earn and how much you can actually save if you are being a bit wise enough.
Thank you, Shitangshu. Thank you for the session.
Thank you so much, Rindani, for this opportunity. Take care.